2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
What is ambiguous grief?
Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast.
I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler.
We're brothers.
We're therapists.
And we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Hey, Tyler, you ready to have some hard conversations?
Let's do it.
Let the Therapy Brothers podcast begin.
Brannon, what's going on, man?
Not much. We missed you on Saturday.
Dude, I'm so sad I missed it. I was looking forward to it. You guys have a good time?
Oh, it was a blast. It was really fun. But I got some welts. So we went. So the audience knows what we're talking about. Is we went paintballing, and
got together with a bunch of old kind of guys from Rising Sun and stuff, right?
Yeah, just the community, and
yeah,
it was awesome to see some of the guys. And so, anyways, we went paintballing, and at one point, like, I'm laying on the ground, and McCall, he like hunts me down, and I don't know, he's like behind me, just looking at me laying there, you know. He's like 10 feet away, and I'm all of a sudden I get hit in the hip, the elbow, and the face, like boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, dude, you could have shot me once, like in the butt. Like, you have to like drill me all the way down my body. Like,
that sounds like McCall. And if you were in the same spot, you would have done the same thing.
Oh, if it's McCall again, like, I'm going straight for the back of the head. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm glad you had a good time. Yeah, that's awesome. And you got to take your son with you too, right?
Say that again?
You got to take Reed with you too, your son.
Yeah, that was awesome. So having him is awesome. So yeah, you have to come next time. We got to do it soon because we got the equipment and it's a lot of fun.
It's a good time. It's a good time.
So
yeah, well, we got another review. I wanna read, Brannon, before we jump in with our topic and our guest today.
Okay.
So this just came through. First and foremost, thank you to everybody who leaves us any type of feedback or reviews. We love having your participation with us. So this one, this is gonna make your head a little big, Brannon, today, but that's okay. It says,
I love how you have to like say that. Can't I just get a compliment?
I'm the oldest. You know what it's like being the older brother. I'm never gonna let you actually like win, right? So, okay. So scratch my last comment. Enjoy this review, Brannon.
All right. Thanks, Tyler.
All right. It says TBs for president. Brannon and Tyler are the bravest and wisest men in the public sphere in this country. I mean it. I'm a liberal, Dharma practicing leftist woman, and I listen to them religiously. Their combination of faith, compassion, warrior spirit, and intelligent therapeutic approaches to shame and trauma are exactly what we need to heal as individuals and as a nation. I may not agree with them about everything, but that doesn't matter. They help me understand my husband's experience in ways that help us so much. Plus, they understand women's experience without needing to privilege or disparage it in relation to men's experience. Brannon, the world needs your book. Please publish.
Yeah. Well, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Like,
That was
that is
really, really
so
thoughtful.
nice.
Thank you for going out of your way to leave such kind words.
Well, and I love how she's highlighting that we don't agree on everything, maybe we're a bit more conservative or whatever, but like that's the beauty of it is we can all be a little bit different and we can all still come to some place of discussion and find some truth together and healing together. And so that was awesome. So I'll keep working on the book. So,
that sounds good. Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for your feedback. Thanks to everybody who listens and participates with us in whatever way we get that feedback. So let's jump into it today, Brannon.
Yeah, we have one of our favorite people here with us today again. So Laura, welcome back.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I feel like I don't need to introduce you too much, but maybe you can introduce yourself again a little bit, and then just talk about the topic and what we're getting into today.
Okay, yeah, great. So I'm Laura. I'm a therapist. I'm based in Texas, but I have the privilege of working with Brannon and Tyler with Reclaim Your Heart. So I'm excited about that. And today I just wanted to talk about ambiguous grief. I've mentioned this before, but I've experienced betrayal myself, and so I have this, I guess, unique perspective of having experienced it and then also being a therapist. So I wanted to come on and talk about ambiguous grief, especially after betrayal, and what that looks like and that feels like.
So don't be ambiguous about ambiguous grief. And so what is it? Like like this term, what are you talking about?
Yes, so ambiguous grief is what we experience, the distress and the, emotional roller coaster after losing something, not through death. So we're all familiar with grief, losing a loved one, but ambiguous grief, it's a little more confusing because we didn't lose that person through death, but we lost them through something else, like whether that be a friendship breakup or going no contact with somebody, or in this case, losing what you thought your marriage was after betrayal happes.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that one of the reasons why we call it ambiguous loss is that it's the word ambiguous is exactly what it means. Is it's the person who's experiencing that ambiguous grief is experiencing the stages of grief over something that's shifted their life, changed their life. It might even be something like I was thinking when you were talking, getting both of my hips replaced actually elicited ambiguous loss and grief. And what it means is that the organism of the human being is feeling the process of grief, but they can't often find the words to describe what the grieving is because the losses are hard to put their finger on sometimes.
But the life that you had before is no longer. And so yes, with physical or medical things too, like you lived your life a certain way, then you had a big change, a big transition, and that life is no longer. Now you have to readjust to your new life.
I think a lot of times we don't think about it as grief. Like I sold my business this year, and last week I had to go back to it and I had to just walk around it and do some stuff. And so I was walking around it and I had all these feelings, like I had all this stuff come up, and I realized like, whoa, like my life really changed this year a lot. And do I think about it as grief? And it absolutely is grief. When I was there last week, having all these feelings come up, it was feelings of grief. but you don't think about it that way, like you think about death or something like that. So yeah, big life changes that shift your life, you go through a process of grief. And i think I think maybe we can talk specifically, Laura, about betrayal and how like this ambiguous grief plays into betrayal.
Yes. So, there's a few things with ambiguous grief after betrayal. One of the things is that um, it feels like you lost your spouse. It feels like you lost the marriage, but it's not obvious to everyone else. So,
Mm-hmm.
people on the outside still see you guys together, or maybe they know what's happening, but that person is still alive. So you don't get the same support and comfort that you would as if your spouse had died, people bringing food
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. But it feels that way. Um, and so that's hard. And so I think a big part of me wanting to come on and talk about this is that for people who have been betrayed, they need to recognize this in themselves because it's not recognized with other people. And so you kind of have
Mm-hmm.
to recognize this ambiguous grief yourself that you are grieving. You are grieving a marriage, a relationship, the person you thought you married. Um, and I think especially sometimes with family members or friends, if they do know about the betrayal, they maybe want to help or they want to help you make a choice whether to leave or to stay, but they miss that part of the grief that you need support in. They miss the fact that you're grieving and maybe doing chores or doing your regular things around the house are harder now. And so sometimes people think it's just a choice of whether leaving or staying, but really the person who just experienced it is grieving and they're in shock, they're angry, they're depressed, they have low capacity for things. So that's one big thing after betrayal, that it's not obvious, and so you kind of have to give yourself space to grieve, to set boundaries, to say no to things, or to let people in, those close to you, to say, hey, I learned that I'm grieving. It doesn't seem like it because, my partner's still around, but my marriage is over as I knew it. And so I just need support. I don't need advice. I don't need um, your opinion. And if I need to stay or go, I just need you to be there for me as I'm grieving.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Laura, to your point, there's two thoughts going through my head as you're talking, and I'm picturing so many of my clients. And the first one is that to use this framework, I think, is sometimes helpful for someone who's been betrayed because they themselves don't even really understand, why am I so much more irritable right now, or why am I so much more checked out with my kids right now, or why I'm like, and they don't even understand that they're grieving. And because of that, then they incur more self-judgment on themselves and start saying, I'm failing at this, or I'm not good at that, or I'm the one with all of these problems and it's all my fault. And then secondly, it seems, and this is something that is kind of tragic, but a lot of times the person who's been betrayed and is in the midst of these kind of stages of grief, which, by the way, let's just get them out there for everyone again: denial, bargaining, anger, depression, acceptance, the kind of bouncing around in all of those different places. They may not even know they're doing it. If they do know they're doing it, everyone else around them doesn't understand that that's what's going on for them. And it's hard for them to even put into language sometimes, either because they can't find the words for it, or they feel like they've got to do some protecting of their partner or their old life or something else. And so they're left in this little world where now other people are also piling on judgment, maybe unknowingly or unintentionally. And so it's like this squeeze that gets put on top of the already painful situation of trying to navigate the loss of everything that's gone on.
It's just to add on to what you're saying, Tyler, the complexities of betrayal trauma are like it's hard to even explain it because sometimes betrayal is more painful than death, like losing a loved one to death. And yet you're then thrust out into this really kind of world where you're all alone in it, and nobody really understands what you're navigating. and working through, and you look a certain way and like to the outside world, and internally you're going through all of this stuff, and it's just really hard. Like I had a friend who she got betrayed, um and I watched her in different, different areas of life, at church or with the neighbors or whatever, and it's like in my heart, because of what I do for a living, I'm like, I know there's so much more there going on inside of her. But I also understand that to everybody else, they don't get it. And the betrayed, they just don't get the support that they need oftentimes from other people to process this grief. It can be really difficult to move through this grief.
Yes. Because yeah, how y'all were saying, like there's this added component of judgment and pressure.
Hmm.
I myself received some comments like, um, well, didn't you know, or didn't you, suspect, or didn't you see it coming type of comments, which are judgmental. But
Those are
also,
those are the worst comments. That's
yeah,
like the worst thing you could say.
I know. And things like that, where whenever you lose a spouse to death, people usually aren't judgmental. They're like, oh man, he was a great guy. And,
Yeah.
they lift them up. And with betrayal trauma, you get the opposite of like,
Yeah.
well, that's why he was like this. Or, oh, that makes it like, what? Like,
Yeah.
I'm grieving. I'm grieving my marriage right now, and those are not helpful. But they're very, yeah, complicated to navigate through because people think they're helping. But it's like before you even get to a semblance of making a choice, you just lost something that's so integrated into your life, like your marriage, the person you chose. And so there's a lot of grief there. As well as something that's different with, losing a spouse through death is that with betrayal trauma, your future with them becomes blurry and unclear. And so, there's all these questions of like, are we going to be together? What does that look like? How I imagine my just my kids growing up with them and our marriage and all of that. So all of that becomes a big blur. But so does the past, which is not something that happens, I think, with, losing a loved one through death so much, is that you don't question their intentions. But with betrayal trauma, you're like, okay, so whenever we went on that trip, they were doing this or they were acting out in that way. So that was that even real? And so you start like the past becomes really blurry as well, and painful too. And then, of course, you're dealing with the crisis of the present. Um, I was I was leading this betrayal trauma group once, and I had this client share that she told her husband that she felt like her husband was killed, and that the guy living with her was the one that killed him.
Mm.
And I thought that was so powerful because that's what it feels like, right? Like my husband died, and you, person that now I am getting to know, you're the one who killed him.
Mm.
And so that's the present of somebody who's going through betrayal trauma. So yeah, it's a lot.
I'm sure there's a lot of people right now, a lot of listening to this and saying, I can relate to that. Like it's almost hitting home like, oh, maybe I am in this place of like ambiguous loss. I haven't been able to find words for it yet. Can we go into a little bit, Laura, some of your thoughts on how do you navigate this? Like how do you actually allow yourself or step into, or what helps in the process of moving into this ambiguous loss, this grieving process?
Yeah, I think number one is learning about it, kind of like we're doing now, and having awareness of the stages of grief. Yeah, which are anger, denial, bargaining, depression, acceptance, as you said before. And letting yourself feel the weight of it. Like if you have to take the ambiguity out of it and say like I lost my spouse, to yourself, I lost a marriage, I lost our dreams and hopes and future. And treat yourself like somebody who lost a spouse, like a widow. give yourself some space, give yourself time to cry, reach out to loved ones that can support you and share the weight of what it means to lose a marriage in this way. And this is not to say that there can't be a new marriage, but the one that there was is over, as you knew it. One thing that I think it's can be really cool too is forming doing a ritual around it. I remember listening to another podcast when I was going through everything, and the therapist was talking about how rituals are important and they're part of our culture and they commemorate things and honor things. And so, whenever we lose a loved one through death, there's a lot of rituals. There's a funeral, and according to your culture, there's things that you do. There's meal trains. There's music, like all of these things. And so that's a way of that can help with closure. And so you can do a ritual yourself, whatever that looks like. And maybe if your partner can participate, that can be good for the marriage as well. I know that for me, I did a ritual, and we just got like an urn type thing from a secondhand store. And then we got to break a bunch of stuff that was involved in the betrayal, like phone, and pictures, and we ripped them up, and just kind of commemorating the end of that marriage, and then putting it in the urn. And we still have the urns in our kitchen. And so, yeah, just forming a ritual around it can be helpful too, to mark it, the importance of
I
it.
think I love that, but I think in order to do something like that, you have to first give yourself permission to acknowledge it and know. I think a lot of times the betrayed almost feels like their pain isn't validated and okay, that I love what you're saying, Laura, because it's, look, I accept that our marriage is over, and your marriage was over. Your old marriage died. It's over. And so in order to go that far with it, I need to acknowledge that that's true. And if that's true, then I can start to process this grief. So I can start to do rituals. I can really cry. I can journal. I can do all this stuff. I can get a support group, all this stuff, because I am acknowledging that this pain is real. It's valid. What's happened is real. So you got to get out of that denial stage in order to move into some of the things that you're talking about, which can be hard to do. I've worked with plenty of betrayed people, and sometimes they're like, look, I don't want to face or acknowledge the fact of the things that have happened. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to come to therapy. I don't want to do this because I don't want to face it. It's going to be really hard to process that grief unless you're willing to face it some. So,
Brannon, I to go along with what you're saying there, to tie together what Laura just shared, the example that she just gave that is actually shows all of what you just said, Brannon. She had to take the time to go find an urn.
right.
She had to then come back and say, what are the things that I can put in there that symbolize the breaking of this old thing, the loss of this thing, of that thing? She went through old pictures. She went through old devices. You can hear the processing happening in the midst of that ritual. So it's not that she just found an urn and threw a bunch of stuff in it and was like, oh, I'm all better. It was like that whole process was in and of itself sort of an acknowledgement of some of these stages of grief that are there. And I think what you're saying is true. I would even say that sometimes hoping to crystallize, that's kind of what that example was, Laura, I think that you shared, is it helped to crystallize that there is a story here that matters. And, something that I do sometimes that goes along with this is I'll have my clients do what I call an assessment of losses. And I'll have them go across a lot of different areas of life: physical, social, spiritual, emotional, sexual, etc. And I'll have them actually not only write down in words, but create an art project, some kind of a collage or a poster board or stick figures, or sometimes they do music or poetry or something else. But what I'm trying to do is help them find a way to crystallize, oh, yeah, that stuff has been affected. Not to stay a victim, but to then start to say, now I have something tangible that I can truly start grieving. And then the other part that I'd say is that then leads to the next step, which is they've got a story now. And that story is worth telling, and that story matters. And that's where that validation piece comes in, Brannon, that you're talking about, is so many partners never feel fully validated. Mm-hmm. A lot of times because they can never find the words to tell the story.
Well, it's hard to be validated too when you go out in the world and you just feel judged. So it's like, well, everybody's looking at me like, get over this, or it's your fault that it happened, or whatever. It's hard to feel validated and I think that's where you got to do your own work internally of like, you know what, forget everybody else. Like my pain this is between God and I, and that's where I'm going to start. And the people that will come in and validate and support me, they'll come in and do that. But I first and foremost need to give myself permission to hurt and to feel this pain. Right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think we talk about this in the healing journey of how healing is circular and it goes around. And so yeah, sometimes we even have to wrestle with the fact that we even have to grieve. Like we're in denial about grieving. And so we kind of have to move into a little bit of acceptance into the fact that we need to grieve, and then it's like the other ring around the tree trunk. But yeah, it takes time. Like that the urn ritual, we didn't do it till a year and a half after. Before then, I also did other rituals too. I remember I did one with my friends when everything first happened, and just to be surrounded by a couple of friends that really understood that I was grieving and didn't judge me, and they braided my hair, and we just did woman things, I guess. Mm-hmm. but just to accept that pain, that this is huge, and it's complicated, and to acknowledge it for yourself. So I like the list thing that you were saying, Tyler, of like, how has this affected all aspects of my life? And to create a story and to believe your own story. Another thing that was really powerful too, and this was way after, way later in my healing journey, maybe like 2.5 years, I don't know, actually created my story. I recreated how it happened that day, what I went through, the emotions that I experienced, how it impacted me, and I read it to my spouse in therapy, and it wasn't blaming him or attacking him. It was just my story, and me saying like, my story matters. That day changed my life. This is me honoring it, and I want to let you in to that. And he was able to hold me there, and to it was a really healing moment. And so I think that's why acknowledging our grief matters. It's really acknowledging that our story matters, that has impacted us, and we need to honor that. And that looks like grief, right? Like, there's this quote in the Marvel series that I like. It's about love and grief, and how grief is just love transformed after loss, after death. So there's grief because there was love.
You would never grieve if you didn't have love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like being able to take that and recognize that is basically the grief is evidence of the life. It's the having thrown into something that really mattered. And it's something that none of us can avoid in life. To what you're saying too, just another thought that kind of came to my mind while you were talking is that, we have, if we have a loss of somebody that actually passes away, especially if it's somebody that seems close to us, our lives instantly in an instant, they change in terms of what becomes important, where we put our time, where we put our energy. Most of us are instantly taking time off of work. We're spending more time with our loved ones. We're going into places where we can have self-care, share stories, love each other, be with each other. And I think another reason why maybe bringing this topic up and looking at betrayal and the process of grief as the framework that we're looking at is that it would be okay for somebody who's experienced betrayal to also recognize that it's okay to alter their priorities in their life sometimes. That there will be a difference, a shift, a need for self-care, a need for grounding, a need to slow down, a need to not put all the pressure on yourself to perform at whatever level you were beforehand in your life, because the emotional part of the being that we are won't be able to keep up with it unless it's attended to. And so that's why when we look at recovery from betrayal, one of the first things that we teach people is grounding and self-care. Because without that, it makes the whole spiral of grief even bigger and harder and heavier to bear.
And not only is it okay to do that, it's essential to. And Tyler, I don't think that that's a lot of people's knee-jerk reaction. I think they'll stuff it, they'll numb it, they'll isolate, they'll grit their teeth and bear it. And that's a lot of what a lot of people will do. They're on their own, they'll hold it. And I mean, what happens when that happens? Addiction goes up, depression,
emotional reactivity,
all kinds of stuff health problems. All kinds of consequences start to hit as a result of our inability or unwillingness to grieve. And what Tyler just said, I think, is so important. And what you said, Laura, about transforming love, the way that happens is you have to stop and love yourself enough to give yourself space to deal with the pain. And it's like counterintuitive. Nobody wants to stop and just feel the pain. But that's what's good for you.
Yeah, and it can be transforming, because I think especially women, we are raised and we're so used to just putting others above our needs and going for our kids, for our family. And so to take this time, even though it's challenging and it's painful, but to take this time to say, hey, my pain matters, that can be transforming, because you're building trust with yourself. I think that's what transformed me the most in my journey is, letting myself grieve. I don't know why, but for some reason I was so scared of being depressed before all of this. Even as a therapist, I was terrified of ever being depressed. And I think because I had so much pressure on myself to perform for other people and to be there for other people, even if they weren't pressuring me themselves, but I had this on myself. And so I took time off. I quit my job, and I guess we had the privilege to do that, but not really, because we were struggling, but I just couldn't. And so, when that depression stage of grief really hit me, I took time to be with myself, and that taught me the biggest lessons, that my story does matter. And so it was a big way of loving myself and of showing other people how to love me once I loved myself.
I love what you just said right at the end there, with showing other people how to love me, in essence, leading by example. And I want to get into that question. Just a side note real quick to what you said. I think you said, I was fearful of being depressed. I was terrified of being depressed. And I hear that so much. I feel that in so many of my clients. And the other place that I really feel that in my clients is, so many of my clients are terrified of being angry. And there's some kind of a belief about anger and whether or not it's okay to be angry. I think we even talked about this with you last time you came on the show with us, but that one seems to stymie people and put them back into the denial place, and they're grieving a lot because they don't want to have to pass through that anger part of what happens when we grieve, even though it's a human part of the process. And so learning to love yourself by allowing yourself to feel, and then show other people how to support you because you're taking care of yourself. That's a really beautiful thought. Next question, Laura, is right along that line of, people are listening to this. There's probably multiple partners who have done the betraying that are listening to this. There's probably people who know people who are friends. How do you support somebody if you understand now that they're going through a grieving process because of the betrayal they've experienced?
Yeah. I think, again, taking time to understand it and to see how heavy it is, like, to see that that person is going through grief, and to ask how, what would be helpful, but even to even do things like what we do for people who lose their spouse through death, of like making a meal, or just, supporting them watching TV together, or going on a walk, things like that that you would do for somebody who lost a loved one through death, I think would be really helpful, for friends of, if you know somebody that has been betrayed, because that's what they're going through. Again, no opinions, no judgment. That's not helpful. No advice. That's not helpful. But just to be a listening ear, and to realize that, it is a roller coaster when somebody has been betrayed. Like, it is very, reactive. They can have really big moments of, being angry or depressed, or even just, I'm going to stay, and then flip flop to I'm going to leave, but be with them through that. Because that's what they're going through. Like, that back and forth is really hard. That kind of like shocking aspect of it after betrayal. And so just be there for them. And then, as a partner who has done the betraying, just recognize that. I know it can be really hard to not go into guilt and shame, right? Because you're the one that elicited this, but this is the truth of what's happening. And this is how it has affected this person, because they loved you so much. They love you so much. And to support them, and to, I know this is more complex than this, but to put your shame to the side a little bit, to support this person that is grieving, and then step up in the house, and the house roles, like chores and taking care of the kids, and allowing them to have space to take care of themselves, take a bath, to journal, to cry, to go for walks, all of that, so that they're more free to grieve.
Yeah, I think some things to consider, like think of the don'ts in terms of helping someone or supporting someone. So, like, don't make it about you, their pain, and that's a hard one with betrayal. So what I mean is, like, if you're the partner that's betrayed, I'm not saying don't take accountability for the things that you've done, but what I'm saying is your partner's going to process their pain the way that they need to, and it's theirs to process. And so when you go in and you're like, well, you should be over this by now, or you're making this out to be a far worse than it actually is. That's you defending you. That's all about you. And they don't need you to worry about you right now when they're in their pain. Don't fix it. Fixing it is making it all about you. You're uncomfortable with their pain, so you want to take that pain away because you're uncomfortable with it. Don't fix it. It's just about space, holding space for what is for them. And that might mean you change an extra diaper that day because they don't have the capacity to do it. That might mean that you get in a deep discussion with them and they open up and they cry on your shoulder. It might mean that they don't want to talk to you that day at all. That's holding space is all those things. and it's patience and it's understanding and it's being there for them when they need you to be, and giving them more space when they need you to give them more space. I was talking to a neighbor whose husband had died of cancer a week before, and I went over to her house and we were just kind of chatting, and she said, "It's really weird. I've spent this past week like comforting everybody else. It's okay. Life's gonna be okay. It's fine." And then she'd have like a casserole show up on her porch, and then she'd have to comfort everybody else. And I was talking to her, and I just thought, like, all she needs is someone to say, like, "Hey, if you need anything, someone to talk to or whatever, I'm here for you." Like, it's not, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh." Like that in and of itself isn't space. There's a difference. It's, "I see you. I know you must be in a lot of pain. And however I can be here for you, I'm here." And that's what somebody can do to actually give support through someone else's grief.
Could I just like add a couple things to that, Brannon?
Please.
And Laura? I agree with you that the default settings are all the don'ts.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tyler.
As human beings, we want to be the solution. So we offer solutions, we offer advice, we offer judgments. We get defensive for the people that we love, so that we judge the people they love before we know the whole story. Any of the default autopilot things are probably the things that we need to become conscious of and suspend. And usually, to what you were saying, Laura, a little bit, there's a couple of thoughts. One is education. We can actually support somebody without even being in their presence if we're willing to show that we're willing to learn to speak their language. My daughters joke with me all the time because, like, whatever they get into, within like 3 weeks' time, I become an expert at whatever it is. So like they start running track. Maybe they're doing that because I know nothing about track and they don't want to talk to me about it. But within 3 weeks, I'm like, all right, that's a really good mile time. And hey, that's a really good 800 time. And oh, wow, this is what you do for like training and this and that. And they're like, "Dad, how come you learn so much about track in like 3 weeks?" I'm like, "Because you're doing it. Like, I want to be able to speak with you about it. I want to be able to like support you in it. I'm your fan. I'm a fan of yours and I want to understand you." Right. So that's one. And then the second one goes along with what you're saying, Brannon. To me, the word is presence. If you suspend judgment, if you suspend solutions, if you suspend advice, but you show up with pure human presence, that seems to be about the best thing that you can offer somebody as they're in a situation that they're having to navigate that grief that we're talking about.
But presence is love, because presence is difficult. Like, if they're in pain, if they're in deep pain, and I'm supposed to show up present with them,
I have to manage deep pain.
I have to manage deep pain and realize that I can't fix it and I can't make it better and all these things. So it like really requires me caring deeply about them and just being in that pain with them. That's love. That's support. Right? And like you say, our default setting is to not do that. We do everything we can to not, like, our ego defends against that. We don't want to be in that pain. And yet that's what is needed.
We're getting down to time here, Laura. Is there anything else on your mind or heart around this topic that we've missed, or that you can think of somebody listening, maybe even asking the question, and I could come up with some myself, but is there anything that you're feeling like we haven't spoken yet today that we need to?
I don't think so, no. I mean, I just wanted to, I just agree with what y'all were saying here at the end. As y'all were speaking, I was getting a little emotional because I was thinking about a friend that did that for me. And that's what I remember from that time, her presence. She wouldn't chime in when I was talking mess about my partner. She wouldn't give me advice, but just be there with me. And we would cope with humor and TV shows and hanging out. But that's what I needed at the time. And yeah, she gave me that presence. So I think that's the greatest gift that we can give people who are grieving.
Absolutely.
We just yesterday had a pretty big tragedy hit our little community, where there was a pretty bad car accident that killed several high school kids that my kids go to high school with, and my daughter was just like, she was just broken up, like just broken up. And I felt myself go into all those places of like, well, at least this and at least that. And this, and I started like, what are you doing, Tyler? Like, what are you doing? And I went to my daughter and I said, hey, Paisley, I can tell that you're really struggling. Like, what's going to be the best thing for you right now? And she said, honestly, Dad, I want to go get my friend who also knew some of these kids that didn't make it. I want to pick them up. I want you to sit in the back seat, and I want to turn on some music that has a specific mood to it, and I want to go for a drive into the mountains. And I was like, great. I spent 2 hours in the back of my own truck while my daughter drove the car listening to depressing music in the mountains without saying a word. That's what she needed. It takes work to be able to suspend all of that and say, I'm for you. I'm here for you. And how lucky you were to have a friend like that, Laura, in your time. And some of our listeners might even be thinking of their own stories and recognizing that they have people just like that. And if you don't, there's help for that. That's what therapy's for. That's what a great group is for. Which, by the way, Laura is starting one next week for women's betrayal. Yeah, thank you for coming on. It's a great topic. Thank you to our listeners who are here and show up every day and are doing your hard work. It's amazing to see the miracles that you're creating in your own lives because of your own resilience. So thanks for letting us be a part of that journey. Anything else, Brannon?
No, I just, this topic, I think we need to address it more often. It's about, like, it's all about grief, because grief gets you to a place of growth and acceptance. And I think it gets you closer to God when you allow yourself to go through this process again and again in life. And it's really weird. It's really paradoxical to Tyler, you sitting there with Paisley yesterday, like, she knows she's got a dad who loves her, and she knows that she's loved in those type of moments. Same with you, Laura, with your friend, right? Like, just thinking about her, like, you're loved. And in a weird way, through that pain, that's beautiful. So I'm really grateful that we talk about this, and it's important to talk about this ambiguous grief when it comes to betrayal, because I think so many people are just walking through this alone and feeling it, but not feeling validated in it. And so I'm so glad you brought it to the table today, Laura. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Yeah, if this is meaningful to you, or if you know somebody who would benefit from it, please share it with them. We want to help as many people as possible. And until next time, keep on keeping on.